Good evening to the podcast tonight, and the podcast is Learn to Teach to Succeed. The topic tonight is the following. It is you are your best current version of yourself. Oh, I think I said it better here. You are your current best version of you. So what does that mean? That means that we all are who we are right now. We know what we know at this time, and we actually do what we do. But if you think about it, this is our current best version of who we are. So here tonight in the podcast, I'm going to share this information with three perspectives. One is perspective of the learner, second perspective of a teacher, and third perspective of a leader. My name is Alain Faber. I've been a teacher for more than 25 years, and I'm sharing some ideas I have about all kind of topics related to learning, teaching, and success. And I hope you will enjoy this session. So here tonight, for my first topic about learning. So as a learner's perspective, what does it mean to feel that we are the current best version of who we are? So if you think about it, in our journey of learning, there was a time when we went from home to a kindergarten class, from grade 1 to grade 3, and then we went from elementary school to high school. And through all of those moments, we were all the best version of who we are. So if you were in grade 10, then you were who you were, and so much more than who you were in grade 3. But guess what? It was part of your journey. For the same reason, if you take someone in grade 1 and then you take that same person in grade 2, the learning curve is amazing. But that works the same once you continue your learning pattern. Because after high school, and then sometimes people, they go straight to the workplace. Some other people may want to go to college. They may want to go to university. So what happens is that the learning keeps on growing. And what happens is every time you learn something new, what happens is that you know more, you can do more, and at the same time, the current best version of you gets better and better as we continue our evolution. And that's quite important because if you decide at some point, okay, I've got my degree, I've got my credentials, so now I can just do my job. Not being able to do your job very well, if you decide not to learn anything new, then you will be at your current best version of you. On the other hand, if it happens that you say, okay, maybe I need to learn something new, because if you don't, you might notice that 1 year, 5 years, 10 years rolls by, and then you're still at the same place, you do the same thing, because not having learned anything new, you've been living your current best version of you. And then at some point you say, oh, I need to learn something new. You may have opportunities, promotions. You may want to go from one company to another. You may want to start your own business. But all of those aspects are all part of needing to learn something new. Because if you don't learn something new, then often we don't know what we don't know. And therefore, we stay put. For the same reason, if you talk to someone in grade 3, for example, they're amazing kids. And in their mind, they're the greatest because they are the greatest. Because they don't know what they don't know from their version 4 years down the road, 10 years down the road. For the same reason, if you have someone that is amazing and brilliant, for example, brilliant soccer player, and the person is a teenager, that's wonderful. And this is their best, the current best version of who they are at that sport. On the other hand, if that person doesn't learn something new, what will happen is that they will stay stagnant, whereas all the other ones will continue to learn new skills, to work on what they can do. They can build muscles. So what happens is that someone in sports, even though you have talent, at some point you need to do what you need to do to practice, to build skills. And you know what? If you have the drive to build your skills, you will outperform anyone with talent that decide to ride on their talent. Because having a talent is amazing. But if you don't work your talent, if you don't add new skills to your talent, then someone who works very hard, learns something new, learn from your talent, what will happen is that people will say, okay, I can do this, I can do more, I can be more. And therefore, that's how people at some point may meet new people, at some point may lose touch with others because their interaction with that group of people is amazing. But at some point, some people will say, well, it's time for me to go to the next level. And the whole reason for that is that every time we learn something new, then we create a new current best version of who you are. It's quite amazing if you think about that. And that's why I do believe that if you that every day is worth living because you can always learn something new. And every night when I either close the day, I often ask people around me and I ask myself, what did I learn new today? Because if I've learned something new, that means that I've grown, and therefore my current best version of myself tomorrow will be so much better than my current best version of myself today, and my then best version of myself the day before. And that's quite important. So as a learner, you need to be mindful of that. And that brings me to the next step, the next perspective about teaching. Because as a teacher, what you want to do is you want to keep that curiosity alive in students. Because if students stay motivated in learning something new, what will happen is that you will see them, you will see their best version of themselves grow every day. Because every time they learn something new, they do something new, they get excited about something, then their current best version of themselves keeps on growing. Um, what was it today? Today I was doing in my science class, we did the lab yesterday on chemical changes. And today we were reviewing how the their observations. And interestingly enough, we're discussing how before the lab I was discussing some topics. For some students, they had understood. For others, they had no idea what I was talking about. But now, having done the lab, having been able to see what was happening in the test tube, now they have a better understanding of what the chemical reactions were. And you know what? I could see how excited they were. Were they all excited? Not really. However, many of them were. Now, can I expect everybody around me as a teacher to be learning something new every day and understand something new every day? I cannot say that it's part of my expectations, because if I expected that they learn something new every day, then the pressure will be very high. On the other hand, I look at my students on a weekly basis, or I look at them how they've changed over the months, but especially how they've changed between the beginning of a semester till the end of a semester, because that's 5 months. And then so if you take, for example, my class of grade 9, they're coming in, they might just be turning 13 and then, or mid 13. And by the time they finish the semester, they're close to 14 years old. They have learned so many new things about science. We've had great discussions. I've seen them grow in the semester. And it's always interesting. And that's a joy to see students grow, because I can see how the current best version of who they are today is so much better and bigger than they were last week, or they were 2.5 months ago when they started school in September. And what's also exciting is that we have 2.5 months to go. And I do know that I cannot foresee how amazing they will be, because there's so much learning we can do. So this is something that is amazing for teachers and as a teacher. Now, if you think of teaching, you have to keep in mind that we are all humans. So that means that everybody that is with you, you have to be mindful that they are humans. They all have different ways of learning, different ways of doing things. And as a teacher, you are also approaching things your own way, with your own beliefs, with your own understanding of how things are going. But as a teacher, it's very important to keep in mind that you also need to learn something new every day. So if you're a teacher or a trainer, you have people with you, and it's all exciting to say, okay, my students or my trainees are learning something new. But as a teacher and trainer, you do need to learn something new. Because if you don't learn something new, then you can be amazing at what you do. But what happens is that at some point you might feel, well, this is the same thing. You might not feel that you're growing, and then you feel that your current best self has been the same for a little bit. And that's why trainers will also look at different things to train or different levels to train. So I was talking to a friend of mine where I'm teaching science right now. It's probably the 50th time I teach it, but I cannot say that any one of those times were the same. And that's what is exciting. So the topics may be similar. On the other hand, all the students are different. Second, when I do labs, I have a better understanding of each labs I have done in the past. And every so often, I bring in new labs to make it exciting for me. Because doing the same thing over and over again can be, let's see, comforting because it's always the same. On the other hand, at some point, you need to say, okay, what can I do to learn something new so that I get excited too with my students? And that's quite important. And there was an idea I had, and let's see if I just lost it. Well, let's see if it comes up later. The third perspective I have is the perspective of a leader. Now, if you think of a leader, it's someone who is not a manager, because I see a manager as a learner and a teacher managing a group of people. But when you're a leader, regardless if you are a learner, a leading, no, let's see, a learning leader or a teaching leader or just a leader in your life as a person, as a human, as a member of your family, as your team, as your company. The whole idea here is that as a leader, you are part of creating the vision of where you want to go. And the beauty for that is that sometimes we have a good understanding of where we want to go. But from here where we are, from our current best self, we know where we want to go, but we have no idea sometimes how we're going to get there. And not knowing how we get there is the journey. And it's the time when we know that we're going to have to do a whole bunch of learning so that we can hopefully get closer to our goal. And that's what keeps it alive. Leaders often, they're full of creativity, they're full of ideas, they surround themselves with people that are teachers, people that are willing to learn, people that are doing amazing things so that they can be part of that mission. Because sometimes it's important as a leader to show the way, but it's also important for you to use your goal and your mission to make other people feel that it is also part of their missions. And that's how you can get amazing employees and people that are buying it your project. It is quite important because if people are not buying into your project, then you end up doing it by yourself. And being a leader by yourself is okay. However, being a leader amongst other leaders or being a leader helping other leaders to be better leaders makes you even better at what you do. Because as a leader, you are your current best version of who you are. But if you can meet other leaders and you can learn something from them, if you can lead others to become better, then that is part of your journey of making it exciting so that you can grow and tell yourself that in a month from now, you will be a better version of who you are right now. And I was looking for some examples that I could think of. And some of the ideas I had are the following. A few years back, I was teaching a French class, and I had decided that as a writing assignment, what we would do is write a blog because I taught at the time French for the IB program, and the blog was a type or style of writing. And I had a discussion with a student because I was teaching them how to write a blog. And then one student says, okay, have you ever written a blog? And then I said, no. And then he told me, why would I learn how to write a blog from someone who has not written a blog? And you know what? I told him that it was a great question. So what I did for the following week, I was sharing with them how to write a blog theoretically, but I wrote several blogs on the side for my students and for my students in another class and for them, because just writing the blogs was making me learn so much more. So it was a bit better as a teacher for those students. So I think that was amazing. And if you, just to give you an idea, I was writing blogs on Blogger, and I haven't looked at those blogs in years and years, but I did learn a lot at that time. I learned that blogging is amazing, but I'm more of a person that enjoys videos than writing, and therefore I decided to turn into videos, and that's how I built my YouTube channel, this one here, and my French science YouTube channel. So that's how these were born. And one of the reasons is that at some point I told my students that it would be nice if they don't want to present in front of the class, they could record a video for me, and I would accept that as their presentation. And then I realized that maybe I needed to learn how to make videos and do better videos. And that's how this started. And the other reason is, if you think of this podcast right now, as a teacher, my hope is that in one of my class, I can show them the importance of doing a podcast. I've heard about a lot of leaders having their own podcasts, and I think it's a good idea. However, how can I teach about podcasting if I haven't done podcasting before? This is my perspective. I don't know if that's the best way to look at it, but I do believe that as a teacher, if you can teach, the best way is to teach what you can do. And therefore, that's why I'm doing this podcast. And I think this podcast is the 12th podcast that I've done. And the first one I did was August 31st, which is like 2 or 3 days before I started the semester. And I told myself that I wanted to do it to start it over the summer. So there you go. So if you think of this podcast, these ideas that I'm sharing, I am so much better at dealing with ideas and discussing right now than I was 12 weeks ago. Because 12 weeks ago, I did my first podcast and I did not know what to do. Do I know more what to do? Yes, I do. And I have so many questions about what to do with the podcast. Where can I post it on other places? And if this will interest other people. These are all questions I have, but I would not have those questions if I had not experimented and started podcasting. So I think that's what a leader can do. Because I believe that today, my current best version of myself is so much better than who I was a week ago or 2 months ago. And it's all part of me having ideas to move forward. And I do believe that you can do that as well. On this, just a quick reminder, the topic tonight was the fact that we are all today, right now, the current best version of ourselves. And it's amazing. But I also know that as a learner, the more things you learn, the more you expand your mind, and therefore tomorrow and a week from now and 2 months from now, your best version will be totally different of who you are today, just because you are learning something new all the time. As a teacher, same thing. As a teacher, you are your current best version of who you are right now. And you can become so much better by learning something new, either for what you're teaching from your students or from other teachers that have amazing ideas. And the reason for that is, even though today you are your current best version of who you are, imagine who you can be, who you could be in 2 months, having learned so many more things about your students, having learned so many more things about what you're teaching, and having learned from collaborating with other teachers. I think that's something amazing. And my third segment about leaders. As leaders, we are the current best version of who we are right now. On the other hand, the more we learn about leadership, the more we offer help to assist others, the more we can help others become better leader, the more we can improve. And the more we can improve, that means that who we are right now and who we'll be in 2 months. In 2 months, we will be a much better version of who we are, just because we're keeping in mind that the more we're learning, the more we're teaching, and the more we're leading can lead us to a better version of who we are, starting today and moving forward. On this is the message I have today. Thank you very much for assisting me. If you have any ideas of what to do next, go and check my other podcasts. And I can't wait to hear your ideas. I want to know what makes you today your current best version of who you are. And if you have a chance, add what is the next thing you'd like to do so that next week or in 2 months, you'd be a much better or improved version of who you are. On this, have an amazing evening, and I will see you next week at 7:30 Wednesday. Take care. Bye.